The best standard zoom lenses are some of the most versatile tools a photographer can carry in their arsenal. Designed for day-to-day shooting, a good standard lens will cover a focal range that provides a relatively natural perspective, neither too wide nor too long. They're often bundled in with cameras as a starter lens though. As we'll see, there are much better standard zooms out there than these ones. The kit zooms that come with most mirrorless cameras and DSLRs, while decent enough, tend to be made with a focus on affordability. In this video, we are going to show top 5 best standard zoom lenses available on the market. And don't forget to check the product link in the description. So, let's get started.
I think the girls with their nails done now.
Number 1. Sony FE 200-600mm f5.6-6.3 GOSS Zoom Lens. The best standard zoom lenses list, and we're wheeling out the big guns. If you're looking for gear that will serve for both high-quality deep sky photography as well as sports, wildlife, and just about anything else you can name, this beast of a lens from Sony is the one. Almost preposterously sharp at the center of the image, even fully zoomed in at 600mm, this is a lens that stands up supremely well to the torture test of being shot with the aperture fully open, which is a must-have if you're considering this for astrophotography. There are further practical benefits, the lens 600mm maximum zoom chief among them. Admittedly, this does cost you a little light. The aperture can only be opened as wide as f/6.3 once you crank it all the way in, which will cost you either shutter speed or ISO. However, when you consider the potential weight of a 600mm lens with a faster aperture, as well as the image quality capabilities of modern sensors, the compromise is worth the cost, particularly if you have a recent, full-frame camera capable of decent image quality at high ISOs. The huge amount of magnification on offer allows for some spectacular photographic opportunities. And, did we mention this lens costs just a shade under $2,000? Drawbacks? We can think of some, not least the 4.7 pounds weight, to which you'll obviously need to add a camera. That means, in most cases, you'll need to be using a suitably powerful star tracker for best results, which will be a significant extra cost. If you're using a Sony system and are after a telezoom, the Sony FE 200-600mm f5.6-6.3 GOSS Super Telephoto Zoom Lens is an overall excellent performer. For backyard birding or your next trip to Yellowstone, the FE 200-600mm is a better fit. Number 2. Canon RF 70-200mm f2.8L is USM Zoom Lens. Very nearly the last word in image quality for RF mount cameras, and surprisingly light. This is incredible for pixel peepers. Canon's introduction of the RF mount for its pro range of mirrorless cameras was greeted with cautious optimism by photographers, right up until they got their hands on Canon's new Pro Series lenses, at which point optimism gave way to unbridled joy. Canon's L-series lenses have always been the envy of other photographers, and its L-series RF lenses somehow find a way to take the series to a whole new level. The RF 70-200 f2.8 is a case in point. It's expensive, yes, but the image quality is absolutely and utterly spellbinding. From the center to the corner of nearly every image you shoot, sharpness and contrast abound. It's fantastically made, weatherproof, and, if you're in the market for this focal range, this is arguably the very best 70-200mm f/2.8 lens that there is. Apart from great image quality and that fast maximum aperture allowing for faster shutter speeds and lower ISOs, there are some nice features. For example, we like the control ring, which can be customized to adjust any number of camera settings. It's compact as well. Where other 70-200 f/2.8 lenses zoom internally, the Canon version has a front element that drives out when you zoom in. That means the lens is just 146mm long when it's retracted, a welcome statistic for anyone whose bag is already crammed full of star-chasing gear, cameras, and lenses. You pay for the quality, of course, and for this much money you could easily afford a much longer zoom lens, which for astrophotographies with a suitable star tracker might well be the priority. But, if image quality is a hill you're happy to die on, which for photographers with pro aspirations could well be the case, your Canon RF mount camera will rarely be happier than when this lens, one of the best zoom lenses available, is attached. Number 3. Sony FE70 to 200mm f/2.8 GM OSS Zoom Lens. A fantastic piece of kit that, while not the longest, compensates with excellent image quality. You can make a strong argument that a quality 70 to 200mm should have a place in every photographer's kit bag, and lenses as great as Sony's 70 to 200mm exemplify why. You can look at the specs. Of course, the 2.9x zoom range makes it practical, compositionally speaking, while the f/2.8 aperture gives you plenty of incoming light, allowing you to shoot either shorter shutter speeds or lower ISOs at night. Optical image stabilization is included as well, giving you a little more latitude handheld. More than anything, though, this is a lens that fully deserves its G stamp and high place on our best zoom lenses list. It's pretty sharp with the aperture wide open and improves throughout its aperture range, albeit most astrophotographies will be at the opened up end. It's well built, too. The all-metal body feels tough and it's moisture and dust sealed. It is perhaps fair to say that most astrophotography relies on good weather, so perhaps the former of those is unlikely to be sternly tested, but if you're looking for an all-purpose zoom, this is a great one. Sony's new FE70 to 200mm f2.8 GM OSS 2 lens is lighter and optically superior to its predecessor, plus it has speedy linear focus motors that make it a good match for the company's fastest mirrorless cameras. The Sony FE70 to 200mm f/2.8 GM OSS 2 is an impressive upgrade on its predecessor in terms of overall image quality, speed of autofocus, and, most impressively, the massive reduction in weight of 435 g. This makes it the lightest lens of its kind currently available. As a workhorse lens, it will undoubtedly be a hit with professionals, though that does mean it comes with a hefty price tag. Number 4. Canon RF24 to 240mm f4-6.3 is USM zoom lens. The Canon RF24 to 240mm f4-6.3 is USM covers a bigger zoom range than any other lens for the system, but it makes some sacrifices to get there. The Canon RF24 to 240mm f4-6.3 is USM offers as much zoom power as you'll find in a full-frame lens, and manages to squeeze it into a zoom that's relatively light and compact. It also makes the expected compromises. It doesn't gather as much light as shorter zooms, and doesn't offer quite the same level of image quality. But if you're looking for a lens to capture wide views and distant subjects, the RF24 to 240mm is a good choice to pair with Canon's low-cost EOS RP. The 24 to 240mm isn't as small as a prime or similar ultrazooms for aps-c systems, but when you consider that it works with bigger full-frame sensors, it's surprisingly portable. The lens measures 4.8 by 3.2 inches at the 24mm position, but does telescope and extend when zoomed in. It's also not that heavy, about 1.7 pounds, just a little more than the RF24 to 105mm f4. There's a thread for 72mm filters around the front glass, and the standard front and rear lens caps are included. Aesthetics are basic. There's a lock switch to keep the lens set at 24mm, useful to have at its shortest position when it's hanging at your side. The zoom ring is positioned toward the front. It's rubberized, with the standard raised ridge texture you find on most zoom lenses. I paired the RF24 to 240mm with the 45MP EOS R5 and Amarit's software for testing in the lab. As you'd expect from a 10x zoom design, resolution isn't on the same level as a prime lens or a pro-grade f/2.8 telezoom. But if you prefer a single lens, the RF24 to 240mm does a good job balancing price, performance, and size, and smartly leverages the processing power of your digital camera to net images better than its optics could manage on their own. Number 5. Nikon Nikkor Z70 to 200mm f/2.8s zoom lens. Absolutely spellbinding image quality, although could be overkill for some. Nikon makes some bold claims about its range of S-line lenses. Designed to be the very best zoom lenses available for its mirrorless Z-mount, the S-line claims to offer edge-to-edge sharpness, plus excellent optical quality wide open, with the latter of particular interest to astrophotographies. Currently hovering around the $2,400 mark, quite a bit cheaper than Canon's identically specified RF mount lens, this has already built up a spectacular reputation for sharpness. Indeed, if image quality, rather than budget, is your priority, and you're committed to Nikon's Z platform, it's hard to imagine why you'd look anywhere else for this kind of mid-telephoto lens. You'd need to spring for the FTZ mount adapter as well as the lens, and the Sigma version doesn't have anything like the reputation of Nikon's own stellar glass. The pluses keep piling up, making the Nikon Nikkor Z70-200mm f/2.8 S-line one of the best zoom lenses, a big maximum aperture and optical image stabilization chief among them, but we also like the customizable FN buttons and futuristic OLED panel on the top, which replaces the traditional focus distance marking ring. This can be configured to show focus distance, but alternatively aperture size, focal length, ISO, and even depth of field are all options. We also like the control ring on the lens, allowing you further flexibility. For astrophotography, there's always the argument that extreme focal distances are king, and at 200mm this doesn't necessarily fill that brief. But at 3.1 pounds, this is a lens that won't overwhelm most star trackers, and produces images sufficiently sharp that they'll survive all but the most assertive of crops. A future classic.